Welcome to Mom Show, a new show about women, family, health, faith, and basically whatever we find interesting, while we share the challenging experiences, but at the end, it is a very rewarding one of being a mom. Today's discussion, we will be talking about kids today, especially with the use of modern technology. Children today are very different from yesterday and a previous generation. Yes. First of all, I would like to ask Rita, because you have experienced the yesterdays and today's also, and you can see the difference. I would like to ask, how was kids of yesterday?
When I was growing up, we didn't even have TV. Nobody had a telephone. Of course, I grew up in a village, and so children would have a lot of time just playing in the outdoors. My children, though, when they were born in the early this century, they were growing up early this century, the only things that we had around us was, we had the TV and we had videos, but no mobile phones, or at least not accessible to children at that time. And so both of them still had to play outdoor a lot, playing around with their friends. But I see nowadays that children have a lot of access to technology, and I think the world has changed. And the way the children are growing up also has changed.
Many times the questions are raised. What happened to today's youth? What are some of the changes that has developed among the children in today's society? Because the way they live their lifestyles, the way they spend their time, especially their leisure time, has changed tremendously.
Yes.
Just like you mentioned, instead of being outdoor, kids today spend more time indoor and on their devices.
Right.
Hazel, what can you say, because you have one teenager, how was it raising your son in today's generation with the use of modern technology and different media devices and especially the gadgets that have come out and be a great influence to our children today?
You know, children today are known as digital natives. When they're born, they have access to devices. Unlike when we were born, we had to, just depend on entertaining each other. If we wanted to talk to a friend, we would use the telephone, which was connected to a cable, and we would literally call, right?
Yes.
Today, there are mobile devices, and the telephones that the students or the children use are not just telephones anymore. They're smartphones. So there are lots of challenges. Parents today want to be able to communicate with their children when their children are away, when their children are in school. But some of the disadvantages include mobile devices having games and accessibility to internet connection. So instead of using a mobile device to call parents if there is a case of emergency, the children can also spend time just surfing the internet, watching videos, and chatting online. And these are some of the challenges that parents have, because we need to educate our children on how to use their devices now.
I understand games are also in the phones.
Exactly.
You know, that children can be addicted or, you know, spend a lot of time. And this has been some of the current issues that children today are facing.
That's right.
So it can be viewed as a benefit, or if not controlled wisely or used wisely, it can also bring a lot of disadvantages
That's right.
among our children today. Now, let's discuss a bit further that these are some of the changes, obvious changes that we have seen. Now, do you think that the cause of this change come from the children or our parenting style? You know, because before, the parenting style is perhaps maybe different than today. Do you think that could be the factor of the changes or the cause for the changes in children today?
Yeah, I think the environment has a lot to do with what we see. And it's not just the environment. I think lifestyle also has changed a lot. Parents are busier than before. And I think some of them may have delegated supervision of children to devices. So maybe like, oh, I don't have a babysitters, but if they just sit there in front of the TV and watch videos, and I know they are safe in front of the TV for a while. So lifestyle.
That they will be quiet,
right,
and not distracting them with whatever they're doing.
So all of this has contributed to the changes in children. And then access to internet, it's exposing to children to things we were never exposed to before.
That's true. That's very true.
Now, so we have realized that there are changes in the children today. What are some of the characteristics that we see that are so obvious in our children that is different?
I think patience, you know, having a son who's just turned into a teenager, there are still lots of instances that we treat him like a young child still, and yet he is already a teenager. One of the things that I have noticed is definitely patience. He is not as patient as I expect him to be. And research studies have shown that children nowadays have a shorter what do you call that?
Attention span.
That's right, attention span. And some of it is due to the environment changes that we are experiencing, such as exposure to technology and all of these devices. Everything is instant. And I think patience is one important virtue that is slowly being lost in our young people.
That's right.
Yeah, and I also think that the devices, access to internet and all of that, I think has made it challenging for some children to develop healthy relationship with others.
True.
Because instead of being, dealing with each other face to face, playing with each other maybe outdoors, most of the time they're communicating with each other just, using social media, for instance. And so they don't develop some of the social skills that's needed in face-to-face communication.
Perhaps we can share a little bit further how we were as a child in comparison to our children today in today's modern technology society.
Well, as I told you, we grew up in a time when there was no TV, and so if I wanted to talk to somebody, I had to walk. I had to run someplace. Or I have to shout. There is no technology at all, So, and if I had a disagreement with a friend, we had to find a way to solve. We can't send messages to each other. So that's one of them.
And this has to do with time as well. And I think this relates to what Hazel was sharing, that, you know, patience is one of the virtue that we have learned.
Right.
Yeah, because it takes time, especially in communication. But today everything is instant.
Right.
true.
You can get feedback right away, and communication is much faster.
Right.
That's right.
And when I was growing up in that time, our entertainment was in the form of storytelling, no images. And so, you know, we would sit around a grandma and listen to stories. Yeah, so nothing to watch.
That strengthens your focus
Right.
and attention span.
Yeah, because you have
Quite
to wait. There's nothing to watch. You have to use your brain to imagine, I guess.
Yeah. What about you, Hazel, as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, if I needed to talk to a friend, I'll just go to the telephone and dial the number. You know, much different from today. I see my son, you know, using his thumbs. I know that he's, you know, trying to communicate. So it's different, and the loss of verbal communication, I would say, the loss of face-to-face communication, because communication is not just in words, and because of that, communication can be misinterpreted.
That's right, and that brought me to the fact that many times I see families spending time together, sitting together. They're so close physically, but everyone is in their own world with their gadget. They may be busy with their looking at their social media, or some might be chatting, some might be into their games, and the sense of closeness, physically, socially, verbally, has been lost and challenged. Yes, yeah. So, well, we recognize there are changes.
Yep.
But we need to pray for our children, and how we are as a role model as well. That we need to be inviting our children to a more closer relationship with physical, social, and that we can communicate.
Right.
Yeah. And that social media or the gadgets or technology is not everything.
That's right.
In today's society. Yeah. Thank you very much, Rita and Hazel, for joining in on the very important discussion today in how the technology and the use of gadgets have impacted on our kids very much in today's society.
While a toddler's exclamation of mine may seem to be a selfish refusal, it actually indicates a cognitive achievement of selfhood. A 3-year-old boy's voice is louder than 200 adults in a crowded restaurant. About 90% of kids are right-handed. There are more lefties in the US than any other cultures, especially in cultures that view left-handedness as a taboo. On average, a 4-year-old child asks 437 questions a day. The great Pharaoh Ramses II fathered over 160 children. Children who watch more than 3 hours of television, videos, or DVDs a day have a higher chance of conduct problems, emotional symptoms, and relationship problems by the time they are 7. Children under the age of 6 are at the greatest risk of crushing or burning injuries of the hand. A child learns to pump on a swing around 4 to 5 years old. A child's sense of privacy usually begins around 8 to 9 years old. Social interaction increases the speed and accuracy of learning in all ages, including babies.
Hello again. Being a mom means more than having given birth to a child. It's loving and knowing a soul before you even see it. It's caring and caring for a life completely dependent upon you for survival. Being a mom is not easy. And now I would like to turn to you, Rita and Hazel, for a very important subject today. I would like to discuss on the topic of how is it like being a mom? Was it hard for you to take on this very important and lifelong responsibility?
It's mothering is a very heavy responsibility because you are entrusted with a life, a soul, and that you are responsible in making sure that this child is growing up in the right path. And that for me is very heavy. And the only comfort I have is knowing that God has promised to be with each parent, each family. Because your role changes from not just providing for the physical needs of the children, but also to take care of the emotional health and also to make sure they grow spiritually. So it's a very demanding responsibility.
Yeah, and there's no vacation for us moms. We're 24/7 mother for our children. What about you, Hazel?
You know, I recently heard a podcast and the speaker said that you want to go for family vacation? Do you have 2 toddlers? Then it's not a vacation. You can't take a day off because you are responsible for your kids. You're responsible for every minute, and that's where it becomes challenging. It becomes, or the pressure is high because you want to make sure that you're teaching and guiding and leading your child into the right way, and yet at the same time, here's a little soul that you love so much and you want to spoil, and you can't just do anything you want without thinking. You have to think carefully the repercussions of just giving in. You may need to. It might be a little lesson on discipline, and you might need to hold back, and all these little things. The pressure is quite high. You need to be able to discern. But like Rita mentioned a while ago, we praise God. We are able to ask for wisdom. Ask God for wisdom in teaching us as parents the right words to say, the right approaches to use.
Yes, and many times we will realize that each child is unique.
That's correct.
And special, and we don't have the right way to treat one child and the other. We need to constantly be on our knees and ask God for wisdom and guidance in leading for the best of our children.
That's true.
Now, I would like to say a few statements and ask you if you agree with these statements. Being a mom is lonely. Do you agree with this?
I think there is a time when it can be lonely, especially when you feel like nobody can understand you. Yeah.
I think it's not lonely because you're so busy with your child, right? But I get what Rita is saying, because we have our own social circle, we have our circle of friends, and I guess in that sense it becomes lonely.
Yeah, women have a lot of needs, especially friendship, you know, someone to talk to, someone to listen to us. And many times moms spend a lot of time with their own children that they do not have time for their friends or other activities, and they may experience loneliness at times.
That's true.
Okay, the next statement. Being a mom is never knowing if you're doing it right. If you're raising your child in a correct manner, you know, if you're training your child in a way that he should go, he or she should go.
Right. I think there is something that we know, but there is something we are not sure of. There's a lot of trials and error. Like, I'm not sure if this is going to work out, but I will try, you know. That kind of a thing.
Yeah, and because children are different, you know, we can read all we want, we can watch videos of parenting as much as we can, but at the end, each child is an individual, and they are different. So we need to ask for wisdom to be able to use the best method for our child.
And I think it is also very important for us moms to remember that it's okay to make mistakes.
True.
Right? It's okay to apologize. It's okay to say sorry to our children.
That's true.
And once we realize that, we will not feel so bad. And we won't be too tight about ourselves by saying, are we doing it right? You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
I like what you say about the need to apologize to our children, because you know, children have feelings, and when they're hurt by their parents, it's heavy in their hearts.
True.
And whenever we realize that we have provoked them, we have hurt their feelings, I think it's healing for the relationship to be able to say I'm sorry to each other. I found that was really important in my relationship with the children. When I apologized to them, I said, I'm sorry, you were wrong, but I shouldn't have acted that way. I overreacted. Please forgive me, you know. And they often will say, it's okay, mommy. And then, you know, it kind of helps the relationship, you know, nurturing. Yeah.
True.
Well, that turns to my next statement. Being a mom is canceled plans.
A lot. A lot of canceled plans, yes. Yeah.
Right. I think we talked about a similar topic some time ago, and in certain situations, certain invitations that happen too late at night or in the afternoon when the child needs a nap, we might need to cancel. We might need to just tell, I'm sorry, I can't attend the dinner tonight, you know. Lots of canceled plans, that's for sure.
Many times we focus more on the need of our child first than the social activity that will take place.
Right. I remember not joining potlucks for the first few years because no time to cook for potluck, and also I had to worry about their behavior in a public setting.
Yeah, for me, I remember we don't usually accept any invitation in the evenings because I have to put my daughter to bed. And I'm quite strict with the time of her sleeping and napping. Like everything is on a routine and schedule. And if that is disturbed, we can see the effect. You know, so as much as possible,
maintain the routine.
Yeah, I would like to. I always try to maintain the routine of my daughter. My next statement is, being a mom is saying no when it's hard and yes when it's harder. Do Do you have that experience before that, you know, you try to balance between the no and the yes with your child?
Well, yeah, it can be very hard to say no when you know they really want it and they cannot understand your no for a while. Or it could be years before they can understand. And that can be difficult to deal with. Yeah.
Especially at the early age.
That's right.
At the early stage of the child.
That's
Right, yeah. Especially if the child has not learned to obey or to trust the parents' judgment.
But the important key here, I understand, is that we have to maintain consistency.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have to be consistent with our no's and with our yeses.
Right.
That's right.
And especially you as a mom, and then also dads. You know, we both, you and your spouse, have to be on the same page.
That's right. That's
in maintaining the no's and the yes. You have to agree with each other. That brings me to my last statement. Being a mom is always taking the smaller half of the cookie.
Definitely.
Do you agree with that?
yeah.
Yes. I think moms will be willing not to have any meal as long as the children can have
That's
something
true.
to eat.
That's true. And that means for potluck, taking food for your child first, even though you're so hungry, making sure your child gets to eat first.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think this also can be viewed not just literally with eating, but in everything else, in our care and love for our child. That this means sacrifice
That's true.
for our children, that we always tend to do more to make sure that they have the best.
Right, right.
And that can mean that, you know, we're taking the smaller half of the cookie,
That's true.
yeah,
Right.
and let our child have the best and the most
Right,
by sacrifices.
right.
And we just pray and hope that our children will see the love and the sacrifices that we make for them. Yeah. Thank you very much, Rita and Hazel, for joining in the discussion today, especially on being a mom. It is a very important role and responsibility that God has entrusted to us. It is not easy, but we should not feel discouraged,
Right.
because we have a God who will constantly be beside us when we come to Him to ask for wisdom
Amen.
and understanding, especially in the leading of our children. Yes.
You might be very tired and you just wish you would have freedom you used to have. If you have that feeling, don't feel bad. You're okay, you are still a good mom.
You're still a normal mom if you don't know what you should do at a certain moment in life.
You might feel like, have I lost my freedom?
If you sometimes forget you have a baby,
If you feel like you go crazy, it's natural.
probably you might forget where you put the baby and you forgot you got a baby and then where did I put my baby? Like, wait, I had a baby?
It's fine for you to shout sometimes.
Still a normal mom if you are exhausted.
If you want to have time for yourselves or if you want to go hang out with friends, you're still a normal mom.
I spend a lot of time with my family, my kids, and sometimes I really want to be alone.
Human beings need time for themselves at one point of their lives, and moms are also included in that category. So moms need to have time for themselves.
Even 5 minutes, that's the very precious time that I can have.
It's just good for you just to empty out your mind.
Once they're being mother, that doesn't mean they don't have like a teenage heart, you know. They also want to have their own time, like, you know, makeup and all.
You can do some reading, you can check your chatting, you know, from friends. It helps to kind of boost up energy.
People picture mom as someone very selfless, where they should care for the family, children, husbands, and those around them.
Because they never been the mom, so they never know how much time is consumed or is demanded by their own family.
Taking care of the children, these kinds of work are not only for women.
If you share that responsibility, you will feel more comfortable.
Of course, breastfeeding mom will do it, but you know, taking care of the kids and house chores, you know, men can do it too.
Might be not understandable by other people who's a non-mom, then they're not a mom, so they really don't know what we are experiencing. But I'm not complaining. It's such a blessing.
Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. Although our children learn a great deal through direct teaching, they learn much more by watching us. This is why we must be very careful in everything that we do. As parents, we have the primary responsibility of building the foundation of faith for our children. Whether we like it or not, we are painting a big picture of faith for our children every day. Every word, every action, and every reaction is a brush stroke. Painting a picture, especially a perfect picture, can feel overwhelming to live out in the day-to-day life of parenting. Whether you are in the middle of sleepless nights with a baby, surviving the challenges of potty training, or managing homework and school activities, motherhood is a tough job. But we must remember that God doesn't expect us to do this on our own. He loves our children more than we ever could. Remember to visit our website at hopetv.asia. You'll find interesting materials to share with your friends and your loved ones. Also, please do send us your questions and comments on our Facebook page so that we would hear from you. We would love to see you next time to share experiences and discuss on issues that matter in this challenging but at the end rewarding experiences of being a mom.